to another episode of the Modern Manifestation Podcast. I'm your host, Bree Brown, a lettuce-hating, wine-loving, curses like a sailor, recovering perfectionist. Having thrived in a male-dominated, commission-based industry, I'm passionate about helping women boldly pursue their life goals. In this space, we build confidence with our mindset, manifestation, and spirituality. I believe that your life manifests as a result of who you are, not what you do, and that your personality creates your personal reality. Join this growing community to increase your net worth by increasing your self-worth. Now let's jump into today's topic. Hello, my beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Modern Manifestation Podcast. In today's episode, we are becoming aware of a pesky habit that I like to call self-correcting, the frustrating tendency to modify how we show up in the world to appease others. Constantly scanning ourselves for what we've done wrong, what we need to fix, who we need to become, before we've even had a chance to honor who we already are or who we've already become. Self-correcting is this habit that keeps us from showing up authentically in spaces. And that's why I want to talk so much about this, because in this world of manifestation, authenticity is going to be the thing that brings your life and brings your joy to you. We cannot achieve it without authenticity. That's really what I'm getting to with this, is like not trying to suppress, not trying to dim the spark of who you are to make others happy. And self-correcting, which is almost the opposite of authenticity, makes us question if we take up too much space, if we show up in a way that people want us to, or if we even fit in with those around us. And it could even cause us to make these micro adjustments to ourselves, to our tone, our facial expressions, how we operate within a social setting. It's also this self-reprimanding after the fact, correcting how you should have operated, shoulding all over ourselves here. Maybe you leave a wine night with some girlfriends and you're like, God, I talk too much. And it's exhausting. Even talking about all this, I'm exhausted. This is the habit that can really have us feeling like imposters in life. So in my current evolution of Bree, I'm no longer changing how I show up in the world to make others more comfortable. So let's learn to say yes to what's ours while saying no to everything else. So if this resonates with you, great. Stay with me and you can decide how to show up differently for yourself. And if you're a badass that doesn't self-correct for anyone, I bow to you because this shit is hard. I started thinking about this topic last week. I had a conference call with another coworker and a client, and afterward, this coworker pulled me aside and said, hey, I just want to let you know, you talk way too damn fast. Not just on calls, but all the time. And your cadence is just too quick for people to process. Now, Bree 5 years ago, I would have panicked, and I would have immediately implemented a change or somehow self-corrected. And I'm not saying that that's bad. It's just not what I would do today. I probably would have checked out 5 books about public speaking, researching why this happens, finding out how to change it, and in fact, I actually did do this. When I first started my podcast, I was trying to speak slower. I was trying to have a slower cadence. I was trying to be more, there's this idea that people that are experts within their industry can speak in these very slow, methodical, rhythmic ways of speaking. And for some reason, I just found having to change that about myself and having to be mindful about my own tone, my own cadence, not just on the podcast, but all throughout life where I was trying to implement this change, it just made me feel so disingenuous, so untrue to who I am. And the whole energy about it was just off. And this podcast only became fun again when I started to shed that feedback. And I just stepped into my own energy and was like, yeah, you know what? I'm one of those people that talks like I've had 5 cups of coffee a day. I'm one of those people that loves to listen to audiobooks on 1.5 speed. That's just who I am. And I recognize that that's not everyone. But this is my podcast. And these are my clients. And these are the conference calls that I'm setting up. And so to that end, I can do whatever the fuck I want. Bree 5 years ago had the motto that I had to grow at any cost. But me today, or Bree today, I paused. I checked in with myself. And I decided, no, but thank you. Or actually in my head, I was like, fuck that. And I couldn't help, I got really mad about this. I was like, why is the expectation for society to conform to this undefined standard when people within it operate differently? Like, why are neurodivergents always held to the neurotypical standards, but neurotypicals don't adjust for me? And if you're new to this concept, neurodivergents are ADHD, autism, dyslexia, bipolar disorder, etc. We spend so much time and energy adapting to a world that wasn't built for our brains. And then we call that growth. But sometimes, what looks like growth or personal development is really just assimilation. And that's also not healthy. Those are not the same thing. So today, I say fuck that to self-correcting. I run on a different operating system, and it's not better or worse. It's just different, and that's okay. So I take that feedback, I say thank you, but no thank you. I talk fast. I love when people talk quickly to me. And when they don't, I find myself interrupting them to finish the thought for them. And it's not because I'm trying to be rude. It's just that my brain is trying to connect. I'm getting there quicker. I'm already there, and I'm trying to tell you that I understand. And so what I really wanted to tell that coworker is, if you want me to slow down, I'd like you to speed the fuck up. A lot. He's the accounting type. He talks very slowly and deliberately, and it is very well paced, and it almost sounds like a meditation. And that's not me, and that will never be me, and that's okay. We no longer have to adjust parts of ourselves that are natural just to make other people more comfortable. Unless, and this is a big unless we want to, because we want to meet somebody else where they are. Maybe they have a sensory issue. Maybe they do have an audio processing issue. That's totally different. And giving space for someone to ask that, perfectly fine. But just making a general comment about how someone shows up in the world 100% of the time, I'm not going to take that feedback. And thankfully, anytime I do feel that I'm getting angry, I've learned to pay attention to myself, because it means that there's a boundary that's being crossed or there's friction showing up, and I need to figure out why. Why is that triggering something within me? And sometimes it is because there's a sore subject, and it's feedback that I've known I needed to work on, and I've truly wanted to work on it, but I hadn't. Or other times, it's because the feedback isn't meant for me, and it's how my internal defense system alerts me to a disconnect. There's a disconnect between who I am naturally and who this person expects me to be. And that friction is this self-correcting that I'm talking about. And today I'm saying, hey, no, I understand you have a different expectation, and I'm just not willing to meet that for you. Unless there's a genuine reason for it. Look, there is a time and a place for this personal development shit. I love it. I drink the Kool-Aid of it. I'm always thinking about personal development. But there's also a time and a place for self-reflection and choosing what fits and what doesn't. And when you're able and willing to make changes to yourself that feel good, that you want to, and feel in alignment, and when changes do not feel good, and when they just feel like you're trying to suppress sides of yourself, or you're trying to self-correct in a way that does not feel authentic. Learning to speak slower to accommodate others, I'm happy to if I'm asked. But otherwise, that's just not a part of this girl's life journey. Another example of this happened recently with my mother-in-law. She was frustrated that I did not call her on her birthday, and I sent her a text instead. And her feedback to me was, you should always call people on their birthdays. And I said, hey, you know what? If you are asking me to call you on your birthday, I will put something in my calendar to make sure that I do that every year. But that is not something I'm going to change about myself for everyone. I'm sure this might surprise some of you, but naturally, I'm a pretty introverted person. I don't like to talk to people all day, every day. In fact, I don't call my family members every week like some people do. I don't even call some of these family members every month. We text. My husband's side of the family doesn't understand that. They don't call you either, but they expect as the younger person that you're supposed to call them. This is another part of that self-correcting, adding another mental load, a mental burden upon myself, feeling like I should be doing things the quote-unquote right way. I'm letting that go. So when this conversation came up with my mother-in-law, I said, hey, if that is something that you specifically want me to do for you on your birthday, I'm happy to. But to tell me that this is a rule that I should apply to everyone in my life on every birthday, that's just not sustainable, and that feels like a huge energy drain. So thank you, but no thank you. I will not be doing that as a rule, but I will make the exception for you. Not self-correcting things about ourselves just to make everyone around us happy, because we can't possibly keep up with everyone's demands. We can't possibly meet everyone's expectations. Some other examples of self-correcting could be things like softening your voice in a meeting, or trying not to show up as too energetic because people think that you're too much. Trying to figure out, how do I make myself bigger? How do I make myself smaller? Unfortunately for our women of color, this comes up all the time. This idea that women of color can't be too assertive because it comes across as aggressive or, dare I say, bitchy, because of this internal bias that people have. So then our women of color might be trying to soften their voice or the way they approach things, or they might add more padding into the way that they deliver things because they don't want to be perceived in the wrong way or in a negative way. And that's not fair. That's not fair to them to have to change things about themselves so that other people don't fall into their negative biases. Another way to describe self-correcting to me is kind of like you are in some way dimming yourself, dimming a part of your personality, dimming how you show up in the world to appease others. Self-correcting could also show up by saying, I'm sorry all the time. Oh, I'm so sorry for this. I'm sorry for that. Or even throwing up an idea in a meeting and say, hey, I'm sorry, but it's like, you don't need that. You don't need to say I'm sorry for interjecting in a meeting, for adding value. So that's another way that we self-correct a lot is the over-apologizing for just taking up space. Or it might even be just not choosing to use our voice at all. Maybe you're in a meeting, you have a really good idea, but you just don't feel like you're able to speak up and contribute your own ideas to whatever meeting you're a part of. And sometimes when I notice myself doing it, I'm like, would a middle-class white man do this? Would a middle-class white man soften his voice in a meeting? Would a middle-class white man give a shit about the cadence of his voice or how he shows up? And as someone that is married to a white man, I can tell you no, they would not give a shit. They would just show up wholly as themselves. And that's what I'm challenging that we do as well. And we stop shrinking to be more palpable. Or at least I want to stop shrinking to be more palpable. And obviously, let's use some common sense here. Like, we're not talking about toxic traits. We're not talking about, oh, I'm not going to self-correct the fact that I can be an asshole when I don't get my way. And you get to shake your fist and be like, I'm not self-correcting. I'm just this toxic individual that goes around making fun of people. That's not what we're talking about, right? It's this idea of, are we showing up as our full self in every moment? Are we feeling like we have to edit who we are? Do we have to dim ourselves? Do we have to be smaller? Are we too much? Unfortunately, I think women were told we're too much a lot, and that's frankly not fair. So let's take the burden off ourselves and put it back onto everyone else to communicate what they need to us. And if they can't do that, that's not our problem. We don't need to be a lesser version of ourselves to make other people comfortable. Earlier today, my friend Aga and I were talking about how we show up in the world. Just a casual conversation topic for us. And she was sharing with me that she has this tendency to show up in conversations and try to fix things for people. She's recently engaged, and this is something that came up with her new fiancé. He shared something that frustrated him. She immediately started jumping in with solutions. The great news is, this is awesome self-awareness. She saw it happening and stopped herself. And if she wants to, she can certainly work on that side of herself. If she wants to. But what if we thought about this differently? What if she paused before self-correcting? What if her instinct to fix isn't a flaw, but potentially a gift for the right people, the people that are looking for that? Personally, I don't think it's her job to suppress a natural response that comes from love. And I know you might say, well, what about a parental figure that does something that's a natural response that they say comes from love, but it actually hurts us? I don't feel like that's the same thing, right? Like if someone makes a really nasty comment to you, obviously that doesn't come from love. I'm talking about if you have a natural response where it's like, oh my gosh, you have this problem. How can I help? How can I show up for you? To me, that's coming from a place of love. I don't think she should have to suppress that side of herself. So as Aga and I were talking, I told her about how Evan and I early on in our marriage decided to ask a question while either of us was venting. And the question is, are you seeking feedback, or is this a listening only situation or session? And when we ask that question, I now know how he needs me to show up in the conversation, and vice versa. And if one of us forgets to ask, it's no big deal. The other person just gets to say, hey, I just want to be heard right now. I'm not looking for you to fix anything. Got it. I'll adapt. And it's a total game changer for any relationship, whether it's a friend, a loved one, an acquaintance, a coworker. Historically, women were always healers. And for Aga specifically, her instinct comes from that same place, that healing, that fixing. I kind of feel like they come from a similar energy. Our empathy challenges us to hold space for people. and to help them when and where we can. It's natural to want to fix a situation. So instead of self-correcting how we operate in the world and within these relationships, or adding more to the list of things we don't want to have to change about ourselves or don't even need to change about ourselves, it's time we consider letting unsafe people go and establishing healthier relationships with the people that are open to having conversations like this. Conversations like, hey, I just want to vent at you real quick and I'm not looking for feedback. It's not our responsibility to be hypervigilant, to control everyone else's response to things. It's also not their job to control our response to things. But the beauty in that is that we don't have to figure out what everyone else needs from us. When we have these healthier, more honest conversations with the people in our lives, instead of taking on another burden of asking yourself, how am I showing up in this situation? Am I meeting their needs? Am I addressing the things that they're wanting me to address? Instead of taking that on for yourself, trust those around you to communicate their needs to you. And if they can't, that's on them. But maybe you could teach them, and that's pretty cool. And while this is a very crass quote, my dad used to always say, I can't look at your ass and read your mind. He mostly said it while driving behind people who weren't using their blinkers, but there is a funny lesson here. People can't expect us to know what they need without communicating it to us, because we are not mind readers. And when we ask for what we need, we teach others how to do the same. And that's not selfishness. That's leading by example, creating space in relationships to be more authentic with one another without masking. And even though one person is asking you to show up in a way, that also doesn't mean that you have to, right? In the instance of my coworker, he suggested I slow down, and I got to say, thank you for letting me know, but no thank you. At the same time, when I'm on conference calls with that particular person, I might slow down when I think he might need it. But otherwise, I'm not going to change 100% of myself where I show up everywhere else. No one is evaluating you to give you a life score, right? We don't get gold stars for every quarter of our lives. That would be kind of cool, but we don't. And authenticity isn't about assimilating for the sake of everyone else's comfort. It's about showing up as the full, unedited version of ourselves. And you can still do this while growing in the areas that matter the most to you. But you don't have to become beige to become accepted. So take the feedback that resonates and then dump everything else. Grow from the advice or the self-reflection that feels right, and when it doesn't, just say thanks for the feedback. And then turn around and tell yourself, yeah, but that's not for me. So that's what I did this last week. I thanked my coworker, resisted the urge to explain myself, and then threw the advice away. And in professional spaces, fast talkers are sometimes read as more anxious and scattered, unfairly. So I will make a small adjustment, but it's not what you might be thinking of. I'm not going to slow down my natural cadence, but I will address it. Now, at the beginning of every client call, I'm just going to start off by saying, hey, by the way, I'm a fast talker. If you need me to slow down at any point, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to proceed and be efficient with your time. That to me feels really good. It sets the expectation up front that, hey, if you need something different, just say so. And then my client has permission to jump in and ask for that if needed. They feel safe to do so. And I feel safe to be myself. And you can do that in friendships too. When you set expectations up front with your friends, you are then saying, hey, I'm not going to self-correct unless you're asking me to. That's just not something I'm going to continue to monitor. And then they get to recognize that and be like, oh, I get to do that for myself too in these relationships. So instead of judging ourselves for how we operate, trust the people who love you to communicate what they need from you. Or you just show them how. So take what's yours, leave what isn't, and trust that the right people will meet you exactly where you are. Stop the self-correcting and start the self-affirming. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me today. Have a fantastic rest of your week, and I will catch y'all in the next episode. Until then, go out there and manifest some miracles.